start recording. Thank you, whoever pressed that button, because I am so bad at that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see us all here on an early Friday morning. For those of you who just joined, you missed Rachel singing to us to get us started today. Our focus for today is really just going to be going over the advocacy letters and figuring out who it is that we are going to be able to send these to. So we're going to pick your brains and we're going to work together as a group. Rachel, would you like to pull up the agenda for today, please?
Renee's going to do that.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at my screen at Renee and I'm saying Rachel. I'm so sorry.
We're all morphing at this point.
Right. Exactly it.
One of the three blondes will bring it up.
Okay, great.
Okay.
2, 3.
All right, so if you would, as you're joining, please make sure that in the chat box that you write the group that you're associated with so that we can just keep a tally of that, please. And then as you're doing that, I want to introduce Michelle St. Germain. She's from the with the mentor survey. And Michelle, would you like to speak a little bit to us about the mentor survey, if some of us haven't heard about it yet? I know that I saw Michelle on earlier. There you go.
There I am. Yeah. Sorry, my room is really dark, so I apologize. It's hard to see me, but I'll still put the camera up just so I have somewhat of a silhouette. Good morning. So earlier this week, I had sent out a survey to all of our coordinators in the mentor program, and we decided that we would also want to share that out to other folks besides our coordinators at the community colleges. So there is a link, I believe, on here. Yes, there it is. If you want to hit that, it'll take you to the SurveyMonkey link. And really what it is it's just a detailed link asking for each college to give us information on what is happening for you thus far for fall. So it involves your practicum, it involves your lab schools, and your child development centers if you have one on your campus. One of our coordinators is also a member of Tri-C ECE, Jeanette Mulhern, and so she had given me some questions as well to add to it. And so I just asked if we could advance this out through the listserv of folks that are on this call that may not overlap with our coordinators for the mentor program, which many don't. And so that way everybody can have a hand in it. So when you get to the survey, it'll ask you for what college are you associated with, and then you'll go through and answer the questions. It looks like it's averaging less than 5 minutes to complete. And again, you're going with what knowledge you have right now. And then there's plenty of spaces in there to add comment as well. So the reason we wanted to do this is kind of twofold. One is for our own program, as the mentor program, just seeing what are we looking at for the fall. And once we get confirmation on what is happening with us, we'll be able to move forward quickly, knowing, who's offering practicum, who's open with their labs, etc. But also in our last call with our contract consultant up there at Early Learning Care Division, he had a lot of inquiry around also, what is happening out in the field with practicum and with, with the virtual, what's happening. And so we had said we had already planned on using the survey. So just so everybody knows that this information we do plan on sharing with them up at ELCD. I don't know where that may go, but I'm sure with the efforts along with the, it will go nicely along with the advocacy letter that is being presented as well. So it could also really demonstrate, the need for the mentors in the fall and beyond, of course, but if we are going to be going virtual, which we know most of us are, especially with these numbers rising in California, I think if people haven't made decisions, it's, these new high rates of infection are probably going to send us even more so into virtual. So that is what the survey is about. If folks can get it done by Monday, that would be great, because we have a coordinator call for our mentors on Tuesday morning. I'd like to present as much data that is in, but it will remain open. I mean, we can just keep getting different data points as people get to it and as the word gets around. So just because it says June 29th on there, do not hesitate if you get to it after the 29th. I would really appreciate that. Thanks.
Michelle, we actually also sent out the link in our last email.
You sure did. Thank you.
So people can also find that there.
Yes, and then if anybody needs, you can always contact me or Rachel. They have it if you miss it here for some reason. Yeah, and in her previous correspondence. So yeah, we're covered. I think this is great. Thank you, Rachel, for including us and getting everybody's data in will be really great. Thank you.
Michelle, I wanted to mention that I sent the survey to all the leads of teacher preparation from the community college system so they would make sure the appropriate people complete the survey.
Thank you, especially now that we're on the summer breaks. We don't know who's all in connection with each other at the colleges. So I just figured the more hands it could get into, the better. And if we get duplicates on colleges, I can filter that out. That's fine.
Beautiful,
Or
beautiful.
combine information. It's not.
Yeah, this morning I sent an email to stakeholders for teacher prep, and it was like I sent it and instantly boop, 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 boop. You know,
Mhm.
people are out right now. So it's like 50 out of offices, but I thought, you know what, it still probably reached a couple hundred people. So it's worth it.
That's right. And people, you know, even though they're out of office is on, doesn't mean they're not checking. So, you know, they're filtering and looking for what they want to answer.
We also just got a comment in the chat that I want to make sure we address immediately.
Yeah.
Valerie said, this is focused on community college. Do you want CSUs to participate? Absolutely. Though the bulk of our group are community college leads, please know that this is absolutely relevant for our CSU partners as well, because the advocacy we're doing is in an attempt to make it inclusive for all systems to use. Especially when
That's
we're
right. And we also have mentors that support CSUs as well, too. So we definitely don't want to exclude that. We just don't have our actual coordinators at CSUs, but in the regions that have CSUs, that their mentors do go to support those courses as well. So
excellent, excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, this was perfect.
Thank you so much. I also just want to make one point until before we go on to Deanna's licensing update. We're trying to be really responsive to what our team is saying, and we want to let you know that we intentionally planned this meeting for 10 to 12 because during our last meeting, we had some feedback that we were doing all meetings during lunchtime. And so we thought, you know what, if we don't want to do them all at the same time or same day, let's mix things up a little bit. So please know that the change in time was directly in response to what we were asked to do, and we're trying to be responsive. Another thing I do want to point out, later on at the tail end of the meeting, we're going to talk for a moment about an upcoming coffee chat. I want to let you know I had the opportunity to be on this week's coffee chat. It was fantastic. So
Awesome.
you are feeling like you want to be connected and you want to ask very specific questions in a small context with experts in the field of early childhood, I highly suggest that you go to the coffee chat. If you have anybody on your staff or any faculty who are feeling disconnected right now, or maybe feeling negative or feeling just beat up, please send them to the coffee chat. The coffee chat was a really beautiful thing this week. It was not just information, but it was truly a support. And so we want to continue that all summer. We've been brainstorming all sorts of different ideas. And so at the tail end of the meeting, we'll talk about the upcoming coffee chat. But just know in general, if you're available on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., pop on in, even if it's only for a couple minutes, because it really will, it'll help to nourish your soul. And we need to be looking for opportunities to nourish our souls right now. So with that, let's go to Deanna with an update on licensing.
Okay, wonderful. So I thank you very much, Renee. I will need to share my screen because I'd like to show everyone the letter that I got in response. So a couple of meetings ago, there was a question about whether or not we would be able to have people in the classrooms and what was licensing saying. So I had reached out to state licensing. And I got a response back a few days ago, and this is it. And we will be sending out a copy of this to you so that you have the links available to you. So this comes from the assistant program administrator at State Child Care Licensing. And basically it says it's going to be a local decision. So be in contact, work closely with your regional offices because of their local public health departments and because every area is a little bit different. And of course, I got this a few days ago before we started really seeing the sharp rises in COVID-19 that we've seen the last few days. So some of us, there won't be students allowed in classrooms based on local public health department guidelines. And for other areas, students will be allowed in programs based on local public health department guidelines and center decisions. The thing that I think we should all be aware of is that if we are placing students in local programs, we also have to have backup plans for if something changes with the local public health department guidelines and they are kicked out in the middle of the semester. Because of that, we all need to be prepared with what we will do in the event that that happens. Much like we did that this past semester.
Yeah, and I got some really interesting information earlier this week. I was on a meeting with multiple K-12 superintendents and assistant soups, and they said there's another document coming out from health by the end of the month that's going to shift things significantly. So we were talking about the Stronger Together document with the guidelines that come out from Department of Ed, and they said, like, you know, for the next couple of days, we're going to be looking at those, but then the second this other document hits, they're expecting a big shakeup. So
Okay.
just a heads up, you know, probably by Monday or Tuesday next week, we're going to see something coming out from Department of Health that that may change things.
Yeah.
And you need to know this is ongoing. All the plans we have right now may be totally different come August. So, or come October. And so it's smart to plan proactively.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, we're also hearing programs and schools being compared to prisons and cruise ships and the ability to transmit COVID-19 if it gets into a system in nursing homes. So, you know, yeah, it's all something that we have to be aware of and work closely with your local health departments and have a backup plan for if you do place students and then they're not allowed to be there, at least for a time during this semester. So again, we'll send this letter out to everybody when we send follow-up emails. That way you have the links there as well. All right, thank you.
Excellent. Also, just so everybody knows, we send our emails and our follow-ups based on who registered on Eventbrite, because that's our email database. So if for some reason you got the Zoom link but didn't register on Eventbrite, please make sure you go back and put your name in there and your email, so that way you're getting the follow-ups from us too, because we want to make sure that we're as comprehensive as possible with this information.
A question, Renee, sorry. This is Rose from LA Trade Tech. How are you?
Oh.
I just want to, when you said that, the Eventbrite, I've been getting the emails to come, to these meetings, yes. So there's nothing else I have to do, right?
And you should be in good shape.
Okay, because if somebody did not get an Eventbrite, is it on the website Teacher Prep program so that my faculty can get access to it through that Eventbrite? If you could put it there, then all of us know we can refer faculty there. Because
I do think the link is on the calendar, Renee.
Oh,
okay.
You're right, Tony. You're right. It's on the TPP calendar on the website.
Okay, it's good to know where it is.
Excellent.
Not zeros, that means that fine.
So real quickly, while Rose is up right now, I would like to give a huge shout out to one of our newest department chairs of early childhood education. Let's all give a shout out to Rose right now.
Thank you. Actually over business also. So, I'm excited about that because of the family daycare program and accessing the accounting and the entrepreneurship programs to add on, the classes. So
Beautiful.
It's a huge responsibility. I've just come from a meeting, that's why I was running late, about the budget cuts that are happening on our campus and what they can and can't do. So that's kind of disheartening. And then I come to you guys and we have budget cuts. So I think we're just gonna have to, do the best we can and be creative. And I thank you all for the creativity that I'm seeing with this group. This is why I came to this. I just needed encouragement from you.
We're also getting some comments in the chat about where things are being housed. And please know we're going to talk about that later today because we're having more resources available than we realized. And so we're working on ways to house things to make them easily accessible for everybody on the team. And with that, Kate and Tony, are you both ready to give an update to everybody from the commission, please?
Sure. Hey, Tony, would you like me to jump it?
Yeah, sure. If you want, you're welcome to start now.
You know, together we really are better. I wanted to give a quick update on the work relating to the child development permit by the commission. That commission meeting was earlier this month. And then I'll hand it over to Tony to talk about where we're going next with a small group. So, and you guys can all go on the ctc.ca.gov website and get this this update, because I think it was really comprehensive. Information on the current child development permit structure and a summary of the prior work of the advisory panel. That work is in some ways has moved us in certain directions, and in other directions we're just on a hold for the moment. Right now they're working on the development and adoption of the set of the first ever teacher performance expectations for early care and education. And they're looking at that right now and they've been building it out for 4 of the 6 levels of the permit. Associate teacher, master teacher, and site supervisor or program director. I can't remember which of the 2 they're doing. And then the current work is underway to support the implementation of those TPEs, which that's the teaching performance expectations. And every other credential in the state of California has TPEs. Also, because our field is so diverse, the work of that is going to have to be looked at by the field, and there was a survey done through Curriculum Alignment Project, CAP, that did some of that. It will need to get reviewed again. And in addition, the next step out for the commission is to look at developing performance assessments on those teacher expectations. So what do teachers need to know and be able to do, and how will we know it? The work itself is expanding because it goes beyond just the 2-year programs into 4-year programs that also support the development of early childhood education workforce and teachers. There is a grant that the commission has been awarded. They're part of the Early Educator Investment Collaborative. That will be a 3-year grant that will help develop that teacher performance assessment. We'll call it the TPA. That's built on the TPEs. And in addition, when I talked to Executive Director Mary Sandy, she has a bigger, a long-term approach, because she wants to look at how we might develop a peer program review piece, peer review for program that will then improve and revise and change the VOC that we've been using all these years for the permit only. So that's really starting to look at what our teacher prep programs are doing. That's down the road a piece, but I wanted you to see her vision. And then finally, there's another grant that the commission is now a finalist for. They got a second review. That's a Pdg grant that will help the work with CSUs and other agencies to design that child development prep. Again, in order to help align those other programs with the teacher performance expectations as they move out. Had a lot of questions, and in part of what we did was we nudged the commission to then get their key staff to put together an ECE flexibilities discussion group. That's and there's a few of us in here. So Tony, can you take it away? Because we just met for the first time this week.
Sure, and there were some questions in the chat box.
Oh,
And I think
good.
one of the important questions that's come up often are the TPEs different than the competencies? If we did all of the work on the competencies and all of the effort that went into that, and the answer is yes. And I think that Phyllis did a good job talking about it yesterday, and the idea that teacher performance expectations are when teachers graduate from our programs, what are the expectations that we think they're capable of actually carrying out in the classroom? The competencies, I think, flesh that out in a much deeper level. And because we go through teacher training and professional development throughout our careers. And I think the competencies allows us to identify some of those things specifically that we continue to build upon as we go forward. I think the TPEs are really looking, what are our teacher preparation programs graduating students capable of doing? And I think that's an important distinction to make.
Really good question and a very articulate answer. Yes, the ECE competencies, and also both those and the transforming the workforce 0 to 8 were used as base documents to try to develop the TPEs. Thanks, Tony. Yeah.
There also was a question if Practicum has to be online, is the commission going to accept those hours? As of right now, they have said yes. They did put out a document, an FAQ, because that's one that's come up constantly, that they are giving that decision over to local control. If your college feels that the students that are graduating from your Practicum experience have accomplished what it is you've set out for them to accomplish, they're just looking for transcriptable credits, as they always have. They've never come into our programs, up until this point, to look at what we're doing individually. They've given it to the colleges, and they said that they are going to continue to do that. For yesterday's meeting, where do we want to start? I think a lot of our questions, or what we did is we kind of formulated questions, like where are we and what are the challenges that we're seeing? The bulk of that obviously revolved around Practicum. What is that going to look like going forward? What are the limitations on reopening our schools, getting students out into the field placement. And so we talked a lot about that. We also talked about observation, because it's not just about Practicum. We have students that need to be able to see children and do that sort of coursework as well. And then the conversation kind of evolved into, well, what is the role that the commission actually has in all of this? Because I know one of the things we talked about was the dismantling of CDTC as well as the mentor program at this time could not be at a worse time. We need people that can navigate the permit process so that we can get them out into the workforce. And our PGAs and the CDTC has always done such a great job at that, but all of those funds have been pulled back. And so how are we actually going to have that person-to-person connection to support our students getting the permits that they need to then get into the workforce? But the commission doesn't necessarily play a role in that, right? The Commission on Teacher Credentialing creates the groundwork for what the permit looks like, and then they do the actual awarding of the permits. And so it was an important part of the conversation, but I don't know exactly where that's going to go forward. Kathleen, you were on the call as well. She brought up some really important pieces that the commission can look at, things like simplifying the application process, where the actual process that we support students in getting their permits can be really complicated for them as they're trying to navigate that. And so if the commission could look at possibly simplifying that application process in a way that allows students to actually get into the field. Also, the idea that they do have some monies in terms of funding colleges or for PGAs or somehow supporting what CDTC was doing. We might want to look at that a little bit. That, and also funding the possibilities of community colleges for entry-level classes, because we know that some of those courses are getting cut back going into fall. I brought up the concern that we had a wait list of 45 students in one of our child development class on our wait list, and we were told that we cannot open another section of the course. See, my cat's attacking me. She doesn't like me talking so much. And so we're kind of just playing around with ideas about what the need is going forward. And then what role does the commission actually have purview to support us in terms of what our needs are? And so one of the things that we're looking at is increasing a listserv to really make sure that we have as many voices as possible. And again, like Renee was saying, we need to make sure that this is not just the community colleges. that the CSUs and UCs also play a large role in preparing the workforce. And so we're trying to open that up a little bit because the CAP survey did go out, but there was a lot of people that felt that they were left out of that conversation. And so we want to make sure that we're reaching out to everybody. Is there anything else, Kathleen or Kay?
I was just going to say, just so you all know, so Tony's on the committee, Kathleen is on the committee, Renee is on the committee, Nancy Hurlbut, well, this discussion group. We've got, so I think that's important. So maybe if Kathleen and Renee want to add something, I think the piece that you all need to know is that what we're going to try to do as a discussion group is to pull together a set of ideas about what could be done to support the work of people getting their child development permit, i.e. finishing their certificates and degrees at our colleges, and being able to help that with the local opportunities that we have to make those best decisions to help our students through COVID-19. Then the work that I was describing, bigger, that sort of broader, can continue. And I'm really interested in making sure that that has robust early childhood voice.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't give a whole lot of backstory. The commission did a lot once the outbreak of COVID came in terms of supporting the K-12 system. Right. Giving a lot of flexibility, giving a lot of different ways that people can enter the workforce and then continue working on their actual credentials. And ECE said, well, we didn't get a lot of clear guidance. I think that was our kind of active voice right away. Yep. And yep. So, you know, Kate early on in the commission meeting said, we need to have the clear guidance so that we know how to move forward with this. And so we got some of that, but they're looking to continue to work on it with the understanding that we're really concerned about the workforce right now. Right. We have a lot of people that have left that may not be coming back. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have taken other jobs. A lot of people who have their own, you know, immune compromise issues, issues of age in terms of going back into the workforce that aren't feeling safe to go back to make $12 an hour and put themselves at risk. And so the commission, I think, recognizes that, and we understand that we need to continue to support the workforce. And so that's where this is kind of the impetus for this is coming from. And so they have put us back on the agenda in August. I don't remember the date for that meeting. And so we're going to meet a couple more times just to try to get some recommendations about what the commission can possibly do to support us in our work locally. And then, yeah, Kathleen, what did you want to add?
I just wanted to add a couple, two things. One had to do with just the basic processing of the applications, that things are not necessarily available in some of the languages that they should be available in for our workforce, especially for the entry-level workforce. The additional translation of materials is really needed. And the other thing has to do with actually mailing things to the commission. And so, you know, there's got to be some improvements with online fillable forms and some of our advising staff who can sign off more easily with the back and forth. So, you know, I have a team meeting with our permit advisors. We have 5 of them that are actually staff at City College of San Francisco, and they've got a lot of very concrete, just permit processing suggestions, translation suggestions, really looking at who our entry-level workforce is. And most certainly in our area, we know we have many English language learners. As I had explained on the meeting yesterday, they're doing these things on their phones, and it's just not conducive to expediting applications with the software and the the forms that are out there. So I think that's something the CDTC can really make improvements on very quickly, I'm hoping, at least through this next year to expedite the paper flow back and forth.
I loved how
Kathleen, let me just ask, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said CDTC applications?
Well,
did you, because that, what I want to make clarify is that the commission,
CTC,
Child Development Training Consortium.
I know, CTC, but we also have to work with the funded CDTC funding, which of course is not going to be available. It's paused for a while, but up until this point, there were multiple, our students had funding from CDTC, permit apps to CTC, all doing it on their phone, and many of them are English language learners. So I think just my vision is just paper flying all over in a virtual environment, and that's what we hope to clear up.
Kathleen
Yeah,
made a great point yesterday when she said all of our students no longer have access to printers and scanners. So we can't assume they're on a campus where they can easily get access to that. So here's the great thing. We're part of this discussion now that's going to go on for the next month. We invite feedback from all of you experts, any ideas you have for any provisions that might make it easier to remove barriers for people going through the permit process or upgrading or any version of people in the permit process. Another thing I want to point out, CTC is aware of the work that we are doing in this community of practice. I have shared with them that our goal is by the end of the next time that we meet, we are going to be writing a white paper where we are putting together all of the data and all of the voices and perspectives that we have had the opportunity to listen to over these last few weeks, and we will continue to listen to for the next month. And then we are going to be sending this forward as a representation of what this experience has been and what we as experts know needs to happen for our students in order to ensure student success moving into 2021, in order to ensure that we continue to have people who are able to come into our workforce. So at least we're on their radar, and what we're doing right now will have an impact, and that's important to know.
Yeah. So we're meeting for our discussion group is meeting a couple more times, and then the next commission meeting is first Thursday and Friday of August. And I want to keep early childhood primary, so I'm not trying to push us too fast, though I think we need to I just want us to make sure that we're at the table and we're, moving up that, in terms of that scope. So please contact me. I put my email in the chat, but also Renee, Tony, Kathleen, Nancy, because we want to bring those suggestions back to the group that's going to meet. I think our next meeting is the 10th of July. So it's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tony, Kate. Thank you, Kathleen. We appreciate all the updates. Okay, now we're going to move on to Rachel, who's got a really exciting new website to share with everybody.
Well, let's switch the order and give our guests time to speak.
Absolutely.
So as we had talked about in the last few meetings, I've reached out to several vendors about looking at what kind of things that they could offer to the state of California colleges that would be helping us move our practicum and observation classes forward. I've talked to West Ed. They have said that we need to get permission from the Office of Child Care and the Office of Head Start at the federal level, as well as the CDE, to be able to use the video footage that they have. So if you have contacts, please reach out to us so we can connect with you about talking to those people. I've reached out to Videotives, and we have a meeting scheduled next week. And I reached out to Teachstone, and we are very fortunate today to have Valerie on the call with us. And she's going to talk to us for a few minutes about Teachstone and some of the things that she thought might be helpful for us to know product-wise that would help us to make our jobs a little bit easier. So Valerie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to introduce myself in that I'm no stranger to the ECE community. I have been here in California working in the field of early childhood education for approximately 20 plus years. So if I haven't seen you in person, it's because I've been working more with organizations and school districts and Head Start and early Head Start programs. I am a regional director here in California for Teachstone. And as you know, Teachstone is the founder of the class assessment system. And we look at ourselves very differently than a lot of people in that we look at ourselves as your partner in education, in that we know interactions really matter and the heart of everything that happens. And as we look at that and we know the changes that are happening so rapidly and what this COVID-19 has done to children and families and the changes that need to be made, we have adjusted many of our trainings to virtual trainings. We have summits for teachers. We've been very quickly developing things. And we would love to partner with you in that, as I have attended your coffee chats and your meetings, I've heard a lot about things that you're very interested in and would like. I have met with our product development team, and all of the raw footage videos that we have, as well as our exemplar videos, are closed captioned. So those are something we could work with you and provide you in some way in a package deal. So know that those are there, they are available, and we could work with you in making something work. Also know that those videos are in English, Spanish, we have some that are in French, so we have multilingual videos available. Also, I know many of you are familiar with our dimension guides and provide those for students. What we're doing now is with our guides, we're looking at making those into ebooks so that you don't have something in hand, but you actually have an ebook that you can provide to students and for yourselves. So those are things that we have been working on in looking at how we could possibly partner with you. But also there are 2 brand new courses that we have that, as I've talked with Rachel and listened to your needs, I thought perhaps these might be of high value to you. And so what I'd like to do is, if I could share my screen, I'd like to share with you these 2 programs that I think might be helpful. So let me share my screen. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me bring up this first. All right. So our first thing that I'd like to show you is, this is a brand new set of courses. And it is a suite of courses called Class Foundations for Teachers. And what I love about this, it is self-paced. It is something that could be used in working first with having your people do independent study and then move from there. It consists of 4 courses, and I'm going to scroll down and show you each one of those. The first course is a pre-K class primer for teachers. And this in this course modules, it talks about why interactions matter, focusing on child development, the class system, and all about the pre-K class. This course focuses on pre-K or preschool. It is an approximate 3-hour course and offers 3 CEUs. So if you are going to be working with this with your students, this is something that you could have them complete this first course. There is a test at the end, and there's a certificate for each one of the courses. So you could have this as a discussion group, that you could have this as a guide. It is a complete course. The next course focuses on the domain of emotional support for pre-K teachers. And again, it has all of these course modules that the student focuses on. As they go through the course, please know that there are active videos, there are participation that the person doing the course does reflection on, there are mini tests, and at the end there is a large test for certification. This is a 6-hour course, So emotional support is the second one. The third is classroom organization. And the fourth is instructional support. So you have 4 courses. Each of those 3 courses that I mentioned that were the domains of emotional and classroom organization and instructional support are all 6-hour courses. And the first one, the introduction, is a 3-hour.
Valerie, I'm sorry to interrupt, but our group is really interested in raw footage. That's, how can you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you get to the point where we will be able to possibly access raw footage through your company and kind of what that entails for us? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt again.
No, no problem. As far as raw footage goes, that is something that we would need to find out what exactly you need. And what we would do is how many hours of that you would need and how we could structure that to make that available to you. And that would be something we could work out with your team as we come up with specifically what you want and what you need as far as that raw footage and exemplar videos. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to see the other course that is a primer for leaders? If so, I'll share that with you. Otherwise, I know I've given both of those to Rachel, and she's welcome to share that information with you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Rachel, is that, can we send that out as like a link to everybody, or what do you think would be the best course for that?
We can send out what she sent me some lovely flyers, so we can send those out to everybody to look at and review. And then we can maybe even do a poll to get some more detail about the actual raw footage that people would like. And then we can get back with Valerie on that.
Excellent. I appreciate the comments in the chat too, that some people are saying we don't need coursework, we need the footage.
Exactly.
We're going to be responsive, and so thank you so much, everybody. Continue to make note in the chat for sure.
So I'm just going to, in our last group, some of the things that were mentioned are over time. So if there's footage that follows a child in a classroom over time, that it is diverse in nature, that represents many aspects of the different populations that we serve in California. Those were two big pieces that the group wanted to see in raw footage video, just to start that idea. All right, Rachel, are you doing the next part of the agenda now?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
Quickly before we do that, Rachel, I noticed there's a couple questions for Teachstone right now on the chat.
Yes.
They're looking for inexpensive ways to access these courses, subscription of videos. Are we able to purchase Teachstone library for an age at each cost? So maybe, Valerie, we can share these questions with you after the meeting, and then you can respond directly to what Teachstone will be able to do, and then what's outside of capabilities, or just, kind of give us a sense.
Definitely, I can do that. And as I said, I'm here as your partner to help you in meeting your needs. Please don't consider me a vendor.
Oh.
I don't sell pencils or pens, or I really care about children, and I care about helping you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And this, I think, is just another reason why us coming together and advocating is so important, because I'm seeing a lot of conversation about cost and how critical it's going to be to try and advocate to our leadership that we've got CARES money coming into the state. We could be advocating to get some of that for this. So yes, definitely. There's so many opportunities that we can talk about in these small group meetings we'll have in a second. Really quickly, before we move on to our small groups, I'm going to share my screen. I had sent this out a little bit ago, asking for help on a special project. So let me just really briefly tell you about where this came from. I have been thinking about this for quite a while. And last week at our meeting, people started mentioning the same exact thing that had been in my brain. So Wednesday night after a meeting, I just sat down on my couch, turned on World of Dance, and brought up my computer and just started playing with this new thing called the ECE Faculty Collective. So I started developing a website, and we are looking for help from anybody and everybody. This is basically a website for faculty in the state of California to just have kind of like a hub or a landing pad. It is a place for us to store resources, a place for us to know what's going on, and it's just like a communication hub for us. I've put on here, if you have any resources you want to share, there's a quick little Google Doc that you can share it with me, and it goes to my email so I can be notified to put it up on the website. There's a place for you to notify me if there are any broken links at any point. But what we've put up here are things like upcoming trainings, the current resources. So Tony and, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Kate, I'm sorry. I wanted to call her Sarah because she reminds me of a very dear friend named Sarah. Tony and Kate were just talking about the teacher performance expectations. We've put a link up here to those. We've got a link to the website that has been housing all of these meetings. We've got resource libraries of anti-bias and anti-racist resources, COVID resources, trauma-informed care. I've been building out for each course, a section for each course to have resources. As you can see, we are needing lots of support from people to give us resources to put in here. I've linked every section to the section of the OER work that's been going on, just because it's such a phenomenal resource. We want to make sure that that's included. I had a wonderful faculty share with me a plethora of LGBT resources, so I've already included those on here. We are working with people who are at four-year colleges, and so we are going to build out a whole section for four-year colleges. We are working on, we have ZTC and OER resources. We have video libraries, so every single link that everybody has sent in these conversations is here, and I've sorted them out by early childhood, elementary, subscription, non-subscription or subscription. We have all sorts of other sections in here. We've got a section built for lab schools that we're building out, a section for infant, toddler, dual language learners, special needs. We have a section on supporting adult students and some of the resources that we've received on that. Trish on Wednesday at the coffee chat was talking about mindfulness. And so she sent me this lovely resource, so I've put it up here. We've also received resources on virtual classes for mindfulness. And we're going to build a section on tutorials, a section on parent websites, or parent resources. And so we are building this website to just be a place, a one-stop shop for people to be able to go to and find the resources that they need. So I do have an ask for everybody on the phone call today. I really am asking that if you have a couple of resources that you are willing to share, to put it in the chat box, and I will be happy to include it here. You can also email resources to me. You can go through the Google Doc and send them to me. But we want to make this a place where it is just an accessible place for faculty to be able to come and get the information that they're looking for.
Rachel, could you possibly reflect on where the Jennifer Paris has been doing a lot of work, and we have been utilizing her document, that's that living document.
Yes.
And people have asked, where is that on the site?
It is in several places. So we have a whole section on ZTC and OER. This was the most recent one with Moving Child Development, Early Childhood Education online resources. We also have her link to her entire group right here. And in each of the courses, for Practicum, the very first thing you're going to see is her link to that section of her Google Doc. Because I don't know about you, but I'm constantly trying to figure out, where do I find this document? Where do I find this document? And so we really tried to make it user-friendly for people to be able to find it in multiple places. I did build it out so people could find resources in multiple places, because like just the other day, we found a really good resource on COVID, but it was also a really good resource for anti-bias. And so I put it in both places, because if I come in looking for COVID, I'm probably going to only look for COVID. I'm probably not going to go through the other areas. So I am duplicating where things are, just to be mindful of where would it be easiest to be found.
Also, I want to make sure everybody knows we are also going to be linking this website to the CCC TPP website, which is the teacherprepprogram.org site. We have a lot of information on that site already. And so when Rachel developed this, it's a perfect way where we will have the link so people can directly go back and forth between the sites, but it's a way to kind of better organize it. And thank you so much, Rachel, for all the time that you've taken to do this. And I love how the chat box, you just got to keep track of it because it makes you laugh. Rachel, you have missed your calling. Imagine what you could do in a month if you did that in a night.
Well, it's been more than a couple of nights, but yeah. So if you could please, any website links, any kind of resources that you think would be helpful for people to know, drop it in the chat box or send me an email or fill out the Google Doc. Please share the love, because this is a place for us to share love with each other. And we do that through sharing our resources.
Excellent.
Rachel, I think you're probably aware, but the Faculty Initiative Project has been defunded and will probably be losing its entire website on July 1st. I will be at West Ed on Monday. I can get hard copies of all of our work that we've produced over the past 15 years and mail them to you. I think it would be a great thing to get up on there.
Yes, definitely.
ECE is also talking about hosting it. Sydney Fisher-Larson will be working on that, but I think putting it up here would make absolute sense.
Tony, they're not somehow archiving it online where we can access it, just pulling everything off.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Also, what's up with FIP going, with Mentor? What? It's like, didn't this all show everybody how important teachers are, like, in care providers? And gosh, we're gonna have trouble when we start in fall, you guys. Nobody's gonna have enough staffing. This is gonna be yucky. I'm glad we're all trying to work right now, because our field is gonna need us. Children and families will need us. It won't even be about so much our colleges needing us, but the children and families will. So thank you so much, everybody, for what we're doing. And like I said earlier, we got to keep coming together to nourish our souls, because there's a lot of, we're getting beat up hard right now. So
what Michelle just said in the chat too is important to understand, that FIP, the mentor program, and CDTC's cuts were made prior to COVID. And things are going to get aren't going up right now.
Did everybody get a chance to see the free screening on Facebook yesterday about the No Small Matter? Like, just incredible and heart-wrenching, and also really, really great. And so thinking, I wish there was a way they would give us license to be able to just have that link to all of our college websites or something, you know? So it's so super important.
Well, I reached out to them to find out how much it costs for an educational license. And so I'm waiting to hear back from them. But I'm wondering if there's a way we could say, hey, and maybe there's something we could do with this website. It's a hub for early childhood. Help us out here.
Yeah.
Would you mention, Rachel, when they return to you, that we would love to do a screening with our group of leaders across the state of California that are working on this exact, like, it would be nice for us to have a showing where we all come together and debrief after, and maybe they would allow for something like that if they know us, or, you know, Tri-ECE or one of our, you know, sister groups, brother groups. I don't even know what the right word is, but one of our, you know, our friends, if we could all work together. Great. Okay, sorry, it's hard to watch the chat and everything. Let's go ahead now. And Rachel, are you good to transition us into breakout rooms?
We are ready to go.
What our plan is moving into breakout rooms. Will you summarize for the team?
Yes, so we are going to move into breakout rooms. In these breakout rooms, because last time we worked together on one specific advocacy letter, we are now in the breakout rooms going to formulate a plan of action as to who we are actually going to be talking to, who we are going to be sending these letters to, which letters will be more powerful coming from a unified voice, which letters will be more powerful coming from individual voices. So those are some of the conversations we are going to be having today in small groups. And it's going to be across all 4 letters, because we know we're all invested in all the different programs. And you may have participated on one letter, but now it's time for us to come together and think about all of them. And now let's come together and think of this plan of action. So we are going to divide out into 4 small groups, and in those small groups, just work together to take over the world, I guess.
One thing to note though, these versions have been edited. Of the versions of the letters you're going to see have been edited today, and we've had a lot of people looking at them and going through them. So the meeting, this part of the meeting is not going to be about changing verbiage. It's not going to be about the wording. It's going to be about, here's our letter. Now, who do we take this to? So, and we're going to attempt in the next 30 minutes to look at 4 different letters and get your feedback on who needs to be seeing this letter. We also want to have an idea of which of these letters we want to send individually, and also which of these letters we may want to consider to send as a collective, where we have hundreds of signatures on one letter and then we send it to designated people. So please know, when the letters pop up today and we're looking at them, it's not about editing. At this point, if you want to do any edits on your own version, you're more than welcome to, but it's much more about who we're going to send it to in our next steps.
Okay, so hold on to your virtual seats. I'm going to be opening the rooms. Oh, shoot, hold on. Oh. Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer than expected. Okay. Did we all make it back?
It's really Star Warsy transportation.
Yes, it is.
Or Star Trek, I guess.
I want the little clicker to get me to like Hawaii whenever I want.
The clicker to get you
I'm in Cabo.
Huh?
All backgrounds.
I'm in Cabo.
Where they would just click their little chest in Star Trek, and then they'd like transport to another location.
Star Trek. Next Generation or original or Voyager?
I was raised on NG. I was
Of
not
course.
raised on the original.
I get it.
I love the discussions that come out of this.
Talking Star Trek, I hear, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
And Leslie, who was in my group, I left the group before I heard what you actually
What?
said. Idea. You're still muted.
I just sent it to you in a chat.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we're all coming back together. Okay, so Renee, what's next on our agenda?
Next on the agenda is a share out from everybody. And then after that, we've got Stronger Together.
Okay.
Do you want me to pull it? I'll pull it up for everybody to see.
Sure. Well, really quickly, I'll start sharing with our group. In our brainstorming, one of the factions of people we thought would be beneficial to tap into were librarians. And since they have created a statewide system that they can have access and communicate across the state, we thought that that might be a group of people that could house video libraries of raw footage and other resources that we could get collectively instead of having individual subscriptions. And so advocating to the deans, the VPIs at our colleges, and some other people to tap into possibly accessing that group.
Great.
Did I miss anything from our group? I mean, I don't want to go through all the tons of other things that we talked about, but the other thing that we're going to be putting together based off of my group's discussion is they would like to do a coffee chat around lab schools and thinking about student placements and just support for lab schools and getting a little more in depth into that.
All right, I'll share out next. I can share my screen if we want to see all of the different things, but one of the things that really came out is the coordinated effort, like a 1-2 punch, so that we have days of advocacy where if we're going to be sending things out individually to our local, with our colleges, our districts, our regions, things that are more local, we do that as a agreed upon date on one day, and then within about a week, we do the letter to the state from our larger group, one letter with hundreds of signatures at the state level. This way it gives your local partners the opportunity to have that information, process that information, and become your advocate, so that when the state says, what is this about? What have you heard? It's like, oh yeah, I know all about that. And so there's also an advocacy push from the local region, the local areas and the regions to also put pressure on the state to do this, and that they're aware of it beforehand. That was a big takeaway. Did I get that right, group? Yeah, okay.
Yours is very similar to ours, where we really want to make sure all the key players are informed of all the different pieces. Even if it's somebody who, like a president or a CIO, who might not necessarily be on the forefront of advocacy for that effort, we still want to make sure that it's within their know about, and so that way they can talk about it and help to advocate for it, even if they can't necessarily give us the funding for it. One thing I thought that was really interesting with our group, when it came to the raw footage letter, we talked about not only sending that letter to the powers that be within our education systems, but actually looking at different foundations that possibly going to an outside foundation for funding might be a better course of action for us, or at least a plan B as we're going and moving forward. And we have a list of different foundations that were suggested to go to for this, which I think is great. With that too, with the raw footage, we also see that as like a really concrete and tangible equity and access issue. And so we feel that by utilizing those words within our ask, that we may be able to kind of tap into additional funds by kind of connecting the equity access piece along with the raw footage piece and training the next generation and whatnot. Something else that I thought was really interesting when it came to the mentor letter, one of the things that was a great point of discussion for us was who do we send it to? We found out within Department of Ed, the letter really went like, Tony was reflecting on a couple people he spoke to that are like at the very highest of leadership levels. And so we were all kind of laughing going, okay, so is Tony Thurmond the only person we can advocate to? And what we realized with the mentor program and that decision that was made pre-COVID is that it's even beyond Tony Thurmond. It's at the federal level, and there's some sort of gap or something happening there. And so it just lets us know that there's, we need to be advocating at the highest levels with some of these pieces, including Superintendent Tony Thurmond and including Governor Newsom. And depending on each of the letters, we have a different set of who we believe should be the advocacy group. And I will send that to the rest of the team so we can compile it after this meeting.
And just so you know, really quickly, on the website that we shared today, under websites, somebody sent a link to this really great link of all these early educator investment collaboratives. And so I guess it's a whole bunch of different groups that invest in early childhood. So that's a link that we have that we can access.
Okay.
Right, Kathleen.
For our group, much of the same types of things were discussed. We also mentioned going to private industry for funding some of the videos and the supplies, and that there really were different strategies for the asks. The mentor program is an existing program that we don't want to have go away, so there's actually a dollar amount that can be researched and advocated for. For the materials, a comment was it would be helpful to actually have a dollar amount of the ask. So if someone who doesn't know how much these things are and just wants to say, I'll throw money at this, we don't really have a dollar amount listed to say what we think this would cost. So this is kind of a new ask, and you know, having that in there, as well as going to a business, not just foundations, but especially large businesses that have not suffered during COVID, that have actually increased sales. We also discussed involving NAYC or CAYC. This could be a national issue, and so maybe we need some advocacy from NAYC around some of the purchases, the video purchases and the raw footage. And then going to existing sources. So we mentioned both Teachstone and Alliance, Early Ed U, looking at who can provide access. And then using the Vision Resource Center at the Community Chancellor's Office for maybe access. We don't have a lot of access points at the State Chancellor's Office, so exploring that. Making sure we talk to not only our board members locally for our needs, especially as related to lab schools, but also our academic senates and the members of our academic senate that are local, our statewide academic senate. And then someone mentioned the No Small Matter movement, federal, to link onto that, especially as related to the mentor program. And that we had an idea around making sure that we reach out to our students. So getting students to locally talked to both the board, our local boards, but also our statewide boards to say that they're a student, they either had a mentor or they had these experiences, they want to make sure they can graduate, they need a practicum course, they need this, it either worked or they're worried about it. So hearing the student voice was not really built into our strategy, but we think that both our local boards and the statewide board would be more moved by hearing from, you know, a student who's worried about graduating and not having a practicum, or who had a mentor and it really worked for them, and or they're a mentor now and they were a student. So kind of, you know, hearing that student voice. And then for some of these asks, especially in the mentor program in the lab school, to go to our existing mentors, our selection committees, and our CT advisory committees. And then many of us are housed in CTE departments, and CTE departments may be making purchases right now. So reaching out to the deans and making sure that early childhood purchase needs are on their forefront, is as we go toward you know, the cutoff dates, do we have early childhood in the queue for some of the CARES funding purchases? I think that's it.
That was great, Kathleen. That reminded me of a couple things that my group said that I didn't share. My group that I was in talked about parent voice too.
Yeah.
Talking about if we could have some parent quotes within this. Another thing that was brought up that's really important, anytime it relates to workforce, we need to talk to our regional consortium leads and anybody who's in strong workforce that has a leadership position, your CTE liaisons, your CTE deans, tie it to workforce as much as possible. So that's just one more thing to add. That's
a couple of other things that our group talked about. First of all, taking this to the press, some of these advocacy letters, because that way, I mean, our jobs are what we're doing directly impacts our communities. And this is an access and equity issue for many families within our communities. So depending on, I mean, not necessarily all of the letters, but some of the letters may really need to go to the press to get advocacy, to get the community behind this, but also to look at the classified union and how that impacts the staff and things like that. So those are a couple of other ideas that my group brought up.
Well, and I'm even thinking a bunch of us watched that No Small Matters yesterday in that live feed. I'm wondering if there's a way we could even partner with them. And they're promoting how desperate this field is right now because we're losing our workers. You know, here's a perfect opportunity to fix that. And maybe there's something we could do with them.
Yeah, that was suggested.
I think we should absolutely reach out to them. They're just regular people. Always remember that, you guys. Any of these things, it's like sometimes we feel like people or things are like not touchable. They're all just regular people. They just put together something we believe in. So let's work together to figure out, you know, how can we leverage and help each other?
Yep.
Now I see we are coming up on 5 minutes till the end of the meeting, and I'm going to do a quick update on Stronger Together. But before I do that, are there any other comments or just thoughts about this process and anything else that you wanted to share? That is fine to say no. I appreciate everybody holding on to. I know these are a lot of meetings and a lot of discussion, and I really, really appreciate it. Within the Stronger Together document that came out from Department of Education, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting today, there is another document that's due to come out from Public Health by the end of June that's going to impact this guidelines. But if you're not aware of the Stronger Together guidelines, please, please, please download this booklet from Department of Education. A lot of it is information that you guys know. We're going to be looking at masks. We're going to be looking at 6 feet apart. We're going to be, I've been talking with some of my K-12 colleagues, and they're literally gutting their classrooms right now, taking out every other piece of furniture except student desk and the teacher desk and workspace in order to accommodate as many children as possible. So it's going to look a lot different. One of the things, though, that we want to know and we want to just kind of make a big push with is one of the things they're telling us is to get outside as much as possible with our students. That's going to be one of the healthiest things. So if you've got a lab school or a child school or a child care program where you will be housing kids, start really analyzing your outside space and making sure that you've got adequate locations where you can be bringing the kids out in a shade and safe area for extended periods of play. Ideally that's covered, so maybe it won't be contingent on weather as much, hopefully, but things are going to look a little bit different moving forward. Please know though, one of the things, and I keep saying this, and I hope I don't sound like a broken record for those of you that have heard me speak about this already, but one of the things that is imperative with the Stronger Together guidelines for reopening our schools, we have to have a positive outlook moving forward into the fall, because we will be directly influencing this next generation of teachers. And if we go into this saying, here's the list of all the things you can't do, it's going to start with a negative tone. And it's really important to say, okay, so here are the restrictions of here's what we're working with in order to make sure that you and the children are safe. You know, we just have to reframe things. So with this document, please download it. It's from the California Department of Education. Please know that these are mandates. Excuse me, sorry. These are guidelines, not mandates. But when it comes down to it, it's really important to check everything out. One of the things I want to point out too, when you are looking through this Stronger Together document, I highly, highly, highly suggest going to every single link that they give you, especially when you get to the back and they go into the appendices. They have some really, really, really good resources here. So sorry, I'm scrolling so fast here right now. But so starting on, what is that, page 45, there's really some really, really additional wonderful resources that I don't think everybody's clicking on and looking into. So another point too, Department of Education has been rolling out many, many webinars. I think they're at like 40 or something since COVID started at this point. Yesterday they did one on early care and the universal learning design model and what that looks like. And so anyways, whenever you have a chance, please make sure that you are tuned into what's going on with Department of Education. They are working incredibly hard to get this information out. And please always be thinking this is progress, not perfection, because it's really important. I don't want to be critical of our colleagues right now. They're working so hard to get all this information out for us. And there's, you know, they're producing all of this at a time where there's still a lot of unknown. And so with that, we need to tread nice, you know, we need to be nice to each other while we're figuring it all out. But please also keep this on the forefront, because with the Stronger Together and the guidelines, we're going to see some changes happening next week, most likely, based on the health recommendations that are due to come out before the month is done. So just a real quick update for today. I'm going to stop share so we can go back to everybody.
So, and the last thing that we're going to talk about really quickly is the coffee chat. The next one is on July 15th. And I have reached out after our coffee chat that we had this week. It was incredible. It started with talking about snail hunt and getting involved and invested in curriculum class, and it moved into this really rich conversation about building relationships and diversity, and just like this incredible moving experience in my opinion. And so we actually have connected with Leslie, who was one of the voices on that, and she has said that she would help lead the next one. And so we're going to look at revisiting our plans and activities that encourage relationship building in an online community. And so bring one of your activities or lessons that you do with students, and we're going to break it apart and figure out, now how do I make this humanized in an online setting.
Awesome. Rachel, are the coffee chats being recorded and also put on the TPP website?
Yes.
So if you've missed it, go back and take a look.
And I'll be sending out the chat feedback from people. We're putting in all sorts of ideas. So I'll be sending that out when we send out the rest of the information from this meeting.
Excellent. I'm also looking right now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm looking on Facebook because I sent Lisa a message asking how everybody can get connected to the anti-racism group. And for some reason, I'm having trouble accessing a response. So I think that we'll probably have to send that out to everybody after the meeting. With that also, if anybody has any ideas for coffee chat topics that you would like before we go into the school year, please let us know. For anybody who's interested in EDU fieldwork for education classes, we also have a meeting coming up with that group. I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say July 9th, but I'm not sure that's correct. But anyways, if anybody's interested in that, let us know and we will make sure we keep you in the loop. Are there any other comments, questions, anything else for today?
I have a request.
Yeah.
Am I muted? I'm trying hard to stay with all the acronyms. Maybe I was just going to send a note to Rachel, but maybe Rachel, one of the things we could have is a list, if anybody could think of, definitions for all the acronyms, because things have changed over time, and I've tried to make myself notes, and I'm lost. I need a cheat sheet on acronyms.
We will put that, we can do that and put that on the website.
Right.
If you send me a list of acronyms that you want me to include on there, send them my way and we will include those on the list.
Hey, I was just going to say, when I worked for the Planning Council and down here, we used to hand all of the new Planning Council members a list of acronyms. So there's a woman named Ellen Dektar, DEKTAR at acgov.org. She may actually have a electronic file of those acronyms. It was sadly several pages, but, and we may not need all of them on there because there was also stuff, but just, when you're entering new people into education, there's all kinds of acronyms.
We could have a whole.
Rachel, I have a list from a public policy roundabout that we do, and it passes around. So I have some policy ones too I can send to you.
Okay.
Excellent. Rachel, on the chat, people are asking how they can answer the, or how they can access the letters.
The letters, we are going to be putting those on a Google Doc, and we will be sending those out to everybody in the follow-up email to this meeting. They're also going to be housed on the TPP website and on the new website, the ECE Faculty Collective, that will be linking to the TPP website, so you can get it there as well.
Excellent. Also, right now I'm putting in the EDU Fieldwork Community of Practice is going to be on July 9th from 12 to 2. If you are not on, you can also search it. It's not on Eventbrite yet, the new one. It should be by the end of today. Worst case scenario by tomorrow morning. So at any time you can search on Eventbrite for EDU Fieldwork, COP, and it'll be there. You can also email me. I'm putting my email in the box right now, and I'd be happy to add you. I do want to let everybody know I will be out of town next week. I'm going to Yosemite and Tahoe, so I'm going to be off the radar, but I will catch up on emails and getting back to everybody once I'm back in town. So I wish everybody a great rest of the day, a wonderful weekend. Anything else from the team before we wrap for today?
No. Good work, everyone. Good work.
Self-care. Take some time for you this weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you about the fires too. And take care, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Deanna, do you mind stopping the record for now?
I will be happy to stop the record there we go. We're gonna stop. Do you want to stop recording?